Welcome back to Panero's Mind, people. I hope everybody's been blessed and I hope everyone is enjoying this beautiful weather out here. It's amazing. There's even a little breeze. Usually in the UK it's like hot, no breeze, but it's nice. It's nice today. Certain parts of the world though, there's a lot of ice, like Antarctica. Now you see I did put out the interview with Admiral Byrd, but there's another version, people. There's a version that got buried. Well, you can make your own conclusion to this video, but I'm gonna put out the other version for you to listen to. The one that makes more sense to me, considering Antarctica's so top secret. Now check this out, people. Blessings.
Admiral Richard E. Byrd, Operation High Jump. Antarctic Expedition. Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd, Jr., of the United States Navy, born on October 25, 1888 in Virginia, USA, was a pioneering American aviator, polar explorer, and organizer of polar logistics. He undertook 5 expeditions to Antarctica and made the first ever flight over the South Pole on November 28, 1929. Many may know his name for his journey to the Antarctic, where what he saw was incredible and breathtaking. He documented everything in a secret journal I will show you in this video. Admiral Byrd had climbed the ranks to Rear Admiral with his 5 expeditions. First Antarctic Expedition 1928–1930. Second Antarctic Expedition 1933–1935. Antarctic Service Expedition 1939–1940. Operation High Jump 1946–1947, and Operation Deep Freeze 1955–1956. The expedition we will be looking at and his journal entries are focused on is his 4th expedition. Operation High Jump. It was the largest Antarctic expedition to date, and was expected to last 6 to 8 months. The expedition was supported by a large naval force designated Task Force 68, commanded by Rear Admiral Richard H. Cruzen. The viewer will relive that period as you hear the journal entries read out. I won't go over the whole piece, I will only share the most interesting entries.
Flight Log. Base Camp Arctic, February 19, 1947. 0600 hours. All preparations are complete for our flight northward and we are airborne with full fuel tanks at 0610 hours. 0620 hours. Fuel mixture on starboard engine seems too rich. Adjustment made and Pratt Whitneys are running smoothly. 0955 hours. Altitude change to 2,950 feet, encountering strong turbulence again. 1000 hours. We are crossing over the small mountain range and still proceeding northward as best as can be ascertained. Beyond the mountain range is what appears to be a valley with a small river or stream running through the center portion. There should be no green valley below. Something is definitely wrong and abnormal here. We should be over ice and snow. To the port side are great forests growing on the mountain slopes. Our navigation instruments are still spinning, the gyroscope is oscillating back and forth. 10:05 hours. I alter altitude to 1,400 feet and execute a sharp left turn to better examine the valley below. It is green with either moss or a type of tight-knit grass. The light here seems different. I cannot see the sun anymore. We make another left turn and we spot what seems to be a large animal of some kind below us. It appears to be an elephant. No. It looks more like a mammoth. This is incredible. Yet, there it is. Decrease altitude to 1,000 feet and take binoculars to better examine the animal. It is confirmed. It is definitely a mammoth-like animal. Report this to base camp. 10:30 hours attempt to contact base camp. Radio is not functioning. 11:30 hours countryside below is more level and normal, if I may use that word. Ahead we spot what seems to be a city. This is impossible. Aircraft seems light and oddly buoyant. The controls refuse to respond. My God. Off our port and starboard wings are a strange type of aircraft. They are closing rapidly alongside. They are disc-shaped and have a radiant quality to them. They are close enough now to see the markings on them. It is a type of swastika. This is fantastic. Where are we? What has happened? I tug at the controls again. They will not respond. We are caught in an invisible vice grip of some type. 11:35 hours our radio crackles and a voice comes through in English with what perhaps is a slight Nordic or Germanic accent. The message is,
"Welcome, Admiral, to our domain. We shall land you in exactly 7 minutes. Relax, Admiral, you are in good hands."
I note the engines of our plane have stopped running. The aircraft is under some strange control and is now turning itself. The controls are useless. 11:40 hours another radio message received. We begin the landing process now, and in moments the plane shudders slightly, and begins a descent as though caught in some great unseen elevator. The downward motion is negligible, and we touch down with only a slight jolt. 11:45 hours I am making a hasty last entry in the flight log. Several men are approaching on foot toward our aircraft. They are tall with blonde hair. In the distance is a large shimmering city pulsating with rainbow hues of color. I do not know what is going to happen now, but I see no signs of weapons on those approaching. I hear now a voice ordering me by name to open the cargo door. I comply.
Admiral Byrd then continues his journey entries from memory.
The radioman and I are taken from the aircraft and we are received in a most cordial manner. We were then boarded on a small platform-like conveyance with no wheels. It moves us toward the glowing city with great swiftness. As we approach, the city seems to be made of a crystal material. Soon we arrive at a large building that is a type one have never seen before. It appears to be right out of the design board of Frank Lloyd Wright, or perhaps more correctly, out of a Buck Rogers setting. We are given some type of warm beverage that tasted like nothing I have ever savored before. It is delicious. After about 10 minutes, 2 of our wondrous appearing hosts come to our quarters and announce that I am to accompany them. I have no choice but to comply. I leave my radioman behind and we walk a short distance and enter into what seems to be an elevator. We descend downward for some moments, the machine stops, and the door lifts silently upward. We then proceed down a long hallway that is lit by a rose-colored light that seems to be emanating from the very walls themselves. One of the beings motions for us to stop before a great door. Over the door is an inscription that I cannot read. The great door slides noiselessly open and I am beckoned to enter. One of my hosts speaks.
"Have no fear, Admiral, you are to have an audience with the Master."
I step inside and my eyes adjust to the beautiful coloration that seems to be filling the room completely. Then I begin to see my surroundings. What greeted my eyes is the most beautiful sight of my entire existence. It is in fact too beautiful and wondrous to describe. It is exquisite and delicate. I do not think there exists a human term that can describe it in any detail with justice. My thoughts are interrupted in a cordial manner by a warm, rich voice of melodious quality. I bid you welcome to our domain, Admiral. I see a man with delicate features and with the etching of years upon his face. He is seated at a long table. He motions me to sit down in one of the chairs. After I am seated, he places his fingertips together and smiles. He speaks softly again and conveys the following.
We have let you enter here because you are of noble character and well known on the surface world, Admiral.
Surface world, I half gasp under my breath.
Yes.
The master replies with a smile.
You are in the domain of the Ariani, the inner world of the earth. We shall not long delay your mission, and you will be safely escorted back to the surface and for a distance beyond. But now, Admiral, I shall tell you why you have been summoned here. Our interest rightly begins just after your race exploded the first atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. It was at that alarming time we sent our flying machines, the Flugelrads, to your surface world to investigate what your race had done. That is, of course, past history now, my dear Admiral, but I must continue on. You see, we have never interfered before in your race's wars and barbarity, but now we must, for you have learned to tamper with a certain power that is not for man, namely, that of atomic energy. Our emissaries have already delivered messages to the powers of your world, and yet they do not heed. Now you have been chosen to be witness here that our world does exist. You see, our culture and science are many thousands of years beyond your race, Admiral. Your race has now reached the point of no return, for there are those among you who would destroy your very world rather than relinquish their power as they know it.
I nodded, and the master continued.
In 1945 and afterward, we tried to contact your race, but our efforts were met with hostility. Our Flugelrads were fired upon. Yes, even pursued with malice and animosity by your fighter planes. So, now, I say to you, my son, there is a great storm gathering in your world, a black fury that will not spend itself for many years. There will be no answer in your arms, there will be no safety in your science. It may rage on until every flower of your culture is trampled, and all human things are leveled in vast chaos. Your recent war was only a prelude of what is yet to come for your race. We here see it more clearly with each hour. Do you say I am mistaken?
No, I answer, it happened once before. The Dark Ages came and they lasted for more than 500 years.
Yes, my son, the Dark Ages that will come now for your race will cover the earth like a pall, but I believe that some of your race will live through the storm. Beyond that, I cannot say. We see at a great distance a new world stirring from the ruins of your race, seeking its lost and legendary treasures, and they will be here, my son, safe in our keeping. When the time arrives, we shall come forward again to help revive your culture and your race. Perhaps, by then, you will have learned the futility of war and its strife. And after that time, certain of your culture and science will be returned for your race to begin anew. You, my son, are to return to the surface world with this message.
With these closing words, our meeting seemed at an end. I stood for a moment as in a dream. But, yet, I knew this was reality, and for some strange reason I bowed slightly, either out of respect or humility, I do not know which. Suddenly, I was again aware that the two beautiful hosts who had brought me here were again at my side.
This way, Admiral.
I turned once more before leaving and looked back toward the master. A gentle smile was etched on his delicate and ancient face.
Farewell, my son.
He spoke, then he gestured with a lovely, slender hand, a motion of peace, and our meeting was truly ended. Quickly, we walked back through the great door of the master's chamber and once again entered into the elevator. The door slid silently downward and we were at once going upward. One of my hosts spoke again.
We must now make haste, Admiral, as the Master desires to delay you no longer on your scheduled timetable and you must return with his message to your race.
I said nothing. All of this was almost beyond belief, and once again my thoughts were interrupted as we stopped. I entered the room and was again with my radioman. He had an anxious expression on his face. As I approached, I said, "It is all right, Howie, it is all right." The two beings motioned us toward the awaiting conveyance, we boarded, and soon arrived back at the aircraft. The engines were idling and we boarded immediately. The whole atmosphere seemed charged now with a certain air of urgency. After the cargo door was closed, the aircraft was immediately lifted by that unseen force until we reached an altitude of 2,700 feet. Two of the aircraft were alongside for some distance, guiding us on our return way. I must state here, the airspeed indicator registered no reading, yet we were moving along at a very rapid rate. 215 hours a radio message comes through.
We are leaving you now, Admiral, your controls are free. Auf Wiedersehen.
We watched for a moment as the Flugelrads disappeared into the pale blue sky. The aircraft suddenly felt as though caught in a sharp downdraft for a moment. We quickly recovered her control. We do not speak for some time, each man has his thoughts.
That is the end of the journal entries from the expedition. It is mind-blowing the journey Admiral Byrd had that flight. Most people will think many things. I think there is more to this expedition. Here is a snippet from Rear Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd J's last and final journey entry, the 30th of December 56.
This can be the only hope for mankind. I have seen the truth and it has quickened my spirit and has set me free. I have done my duty toward the monstrous military-industrial complex. Now, the long night begins to approach, but there shall be no end. Just as the long night of the Arctic ends, the brilliant sunshine of truth shall come again. And those who are of darkness shall fall in its light. For I have seen that land beyond the pole, that center of the great unknown.
Richard Evelyn Byrd was a well-respected admiral of the U.S. Navy. He had a lot to lose and nothing to gain. Rear Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd, Jr. Born 1888, died 1957. Years of service: 1912 to 1927 and 1940 to 1947. Awards: Medal of Honor, Navy Cross, Navy Distinguished Service Medal, Distinguished Flying Cross, Legion of Merit, Congressional Gold Medal.